Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Praveen Kumar Sriram. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, author, currently working as a solutions architect on Azure. So this is a series of videos on learning private endpoints. So far we have learned around 4 various videos. Today is our 5th video in the series. Let's get started. Today we are going to learn about how to create Vnet and Subnet using Bicep. Before that, we'll also learn what is Vnet, what is Subnet, and their features as well. Today we are going to create a Vnet, which is demonstrated like this. Inside this Vnet, we are going to create a subnet for maybe database and one more subnet for rest of the other services like web applications and so on. Virtual network in short is called as Vnet. Let's first understand what exactly is Azure Virtual Network. So Azure Virtual Network is the fundamental building block for the private network in Azure. Let's say you want to create a network within Azure, then Vnet is the service that we should create. And while creating Vnet, you should obviously choose a region. So every Vnet is scoped to a single region. And in a given Vnet, we can create one or more subnetworks or subnets. Basically, subnet is nothing but a segment. And obviously, if you want to divide Vnet into multiple segments, then you should create multiple subnets. And while creating Vnet, we must specify an IP address range. This is also called as CIDR block. So it can be either public IP address range or private IP address range as well. And Vnets are free of cost, and we can also create up to 50 virtual networks in a given subscription across all the regions. Now let me show you how to create Azure Virtual Network from the portal. This is the list of existing virtual networks. Now if you want to create a new virtual network, obviously we need to click on create, choose the resource group and Vnet name. I'm going to create a simple Vnet and then click next. These are all, I'll leave it to default options. Now click on next. So this is very important. This is where we provide the IP address range for a given virtual network. So as you can see here, the IP address range of the Vnet is 10.0.0.0 and /16. That means you can create up to 65,536 IP addresses. So I'll not talk too much about how many addresses should be created. It all depends on the requirements. But here you just understand that we need to provide a IP address range while creating this virtual network. Okay, and of course we can create multiple subnets here. By default, you can see a default subnet with 256 addresses, and of course you can change it. So I'm not going to create a virtual network here because I'll be creating a virtual network using Bicep. Okay, let's go back to PowerPoint slides. Before we start writing Bicep code, we will also understand what is a subnet. Okay, let's head over to the slides. Let's understand what is Azure Subnet. Basically, a virtual network can be divided into one or more segments. For example, you may want to store all IP addresses related to SQL in one subnet, all web related things in one more subnet. So it all depends on your requirement, on what basis you should create subnets and what requirements you should create subnets. For example, let's say you are an admin team or infra team who supports all your development team projects. Maybe for project 1 you may create one subnet, project 2 you can create another subnet. It all depends. I don't want to talk about how you create subnets. It all depends on your project requirements. Okay, but definitely in one virtual network we can create multiple subnets. and subnet is nothing but a logical division of your virtual network. Like how you have IP address range for your virtual network, similarly every subnet contains a range of IP addresses, and of course the IP address range of a subnet must fall within the virtual network address space, and the IP address range of a given subnet should not overlap with other subnets in your virtual network. And for every subnet, Azure reserves 5 IP addresses. The first 4 addresses and the last address are reserved. And for each subnet, Azure reserves 5 IP addresses. The first 4 addresses and the last one are reserved. Now let me show you an example of how subnets look like in a given VNet. Here you can see I created 3 subnets, subnet 0, subnet 1, subnet 2 in a given virtual network. And here you can see 10.0.0.0/24, that's the subnet 0, and then subnet 1 has 10.0.1.0, and then 10.0.2.0 for the subnet 2. So each of these subnets can carry around 251 IPs. Okay, so now let's get started creating virtual network as well as subnets using Bicep. I already created a folder called Azure Private Endpoints, and within that I created a folder called modules, and inside that I created 2 files, main.bicep and vnet.bicep, because we are going to add more files in the upcoming videos, so all those will be in this folder only. So today we are going to update vnet.bicep. This file will contain the code related to virtual network as well as subnets. Let's first start creating code for virtual networks. Alright, let's now get started working with writing the Bicep code for creating both VNet as well as the subnets. First, I'm going to use the IntelliSense resource-vnet. This is the feature of Bicep extension of Visual Studio Code. Now, let me click on this. This code creates us a VNet plus 2 subnets inside it. So let's not use the default code, because here, though the subnets are created inside array, we should not use this, because tomorrow if we want to create additional subnet, we have to come to vnet.bicep and copy paste the code and make modifications to the new subnet based on the requirements. So additional maintenance is required. That means right now the vnet.bicep is a bicep module. So one of the best practices that we should follow while writing the Bicep modules is to minimize the changes that need to be done to the module itself, which means in the future, if we need to add more subnets, we should not touch this VNet Bicep module. Instead, that should be passed as parameter to this Bicep module. So you will understand this once we implement the entire Bicep module. So let me delete the subnet part. We are going to, instead of removing everything, maybe we can remove this particular section. Okay. And yeah, let the other code be as is, because the code looks good, and of course we need to add some parameters. So first we will add a parameter for location. Now all this IntelliSense is working because of the Copilot that I have installed to Visual Studio Code. Feel free to install and enable the GitHub Copilot. So I'm going ahead with this, Vnet name. So I'm not going to pass the Vnet name here. And now I can use the location. Yeah, it's already there. Now I can use this Vnet name here. And look at the properties. The property section contains address space. Now address space has address prefixes, which is an array. Right now, we are going ahead with the default address range for our network. Currently, we have only one CIDR block or address space. But what is technically also is possible is we can have multiple address ranges for a given virtual network. That's also possible. Okay. For now, we are good with the default address prefix, which is given by the Bicep extension itself. So now we are good with the two parameters. Now we need to create a parameter for our subnets. In general, everywhere in any project, definitely you will be having multiple subnets. In our case, we also want two subnets, one for SQL, one for rest of the services like app services and rest of the other ones. Okay. So definitely we need to provide a facility for creating multiple subnets. So definitely it should be an array equals to arrays are always denoted in square brackets. And because the subnets need multiple properties, so definitely it should be an object. So what we should do is we need to create an array of objects. So currently this square brackets denotes an array and this curly braces denotes an object. Now each object can contain multiple properties. One, the subnet name itself, and then the subnet also can contain address prefix. Okay. So let's now provide a subnet name, and all, of course we need to follow some naming conventions, right? SNet, S stands for sub, NET stands for net, and subnet hyphen Vnet name. The good practice is to also include the virtual network name so that we understand to which Vnet a particular subnet belongs to. Okay, or you can leave it. It's up to you on what naming convention you want to follow in your projects. Here I want to create two subnets, one for SQL and the address prefix could be 10 dot 1 dot, and then I would also like to create one more subnet. So I'm going to copy paste this, and I want one subnet for web. Yeah, I will be using web. And please remember that we should change the address space because the IP addresses should not overlap. So now the array is all good. The data structure is pretty good. Right now we are good with just the name and address prefix. Okay. Maybe in another video we'll talk about additional features wherein we can do subnet delegation as well. Now we have the subnets array. So let's now change the bicep code wherein we would like to assign the parameter value to actual subnets. So because it's an array, we would like to write a for loop here. So subnets is an array. So let's specify the array square brackets. Now again, GitHub Copilot is giving us the for loop code, but I'm not going to use it. So press escape. So for subnet in subnets is the array. So put a colon and then it's an object. So use this, and subnet has a property called name wherein we can specify subnet dot name. So this name must be used. So for every object that we have here, we need to use subnet object. So this is a reference for each object. So basically what happens here is this for loop will iterate based on the number of elements, number of objects that you have in the subnets array. And for each iteration, the entire object that is selected here will be stored in the subnet object. And in order to refer a property called name, we need to use subnet.name syntax. And then subnet has something called as properties, in which the address prefix is mentioned. So address prefix is again part of subnet object dot address prefix is the property name which GitHub Copilot is automatically showing to us. That's it. So let's align this little bit. So this is how you iterate the array which contains objects. What I did offline is I created code inside the main.bicep with the parameters, and I called the module vnet.bicep module from this main bicep file. And of course, I also created bicep parameters which contain all the parameter values here. So main will capture all these values and pass this to vnet.bicep module. Okay, so now in case if we have to run it, we have to use bicep param as well along with the other inputs. Okay. So before we run, I would like to also show you some practices that we should follow. For example, right now all the subnets are created from bicep. I have seen some people creating subnets from the portal directly due to some urgent requirements. I would recommend never do that. Even if you have to do that for some reason, you have to immediately update your bicep code to accommodate the new subnet. Let's see what happens if someone creates a subnet manually. I will leave it to default ones. Maybe I will change the range. I'm sorry. I added a new subnet with the name default from the portal, but I forgot or I neglected to make bicep changes for this subnet, and I did not update any of the team members. So after a few days, we made some bicep changes for some other requirements, and then we run the bicep code. Let's see what happens. This execution will take some time. Pause the recording. I'll come back once it is ready. Alright, it took around a minute to complete the execution of the bicep code. So I will repeat what I did earlier. I manually created a subnet. After creating the subnet manually, I ran the bicep code. And then if I go back to the portal and refresh, you see, subnet is deleted. So please be very careful if you want to create a subnet from the portal for some urgent matters. Please ensure you update the bicep code appropriately. Whatever subnet you created with whatever properties, same thing should go into bicep code as well. Otherwise, in the subsequent bicep execution, the subnet will get deleted. And currently, the subnet got deleted because it is not used. In case if the subnet is used and some IPs are being assigned to something, then subnet will not be deleted because it is being used. Instead of deleting the subnet, bicep code will fail. So please be very careful. This is the behavior with respect to subnets when dealing with bicep. Okay, I just want to discuss that important point with you. So for this video, we have learned how to create a virtual network and how to create subnets using bicep. And from now onwards, if there is any new requirement for creating additional subnets, all we need is come here to bicep param file, copy this object, paste it here, provide a meaningful name, and provide an appropriate CIDR range for the address prefix, and then you can run the bicep. So all we are changing is the bicep param files. We're not touching the internal modules. That's the best practice in terms of managing the code. That's it for this video. I will see you in the next video. If you have any feedback, please feel free to provide your feedback in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Jai Hind.